Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. I am Reverend Lane Campbell, and most Sundays I can be found at the First Universalist Church of Rochester, but I am delighted and honored to be with you all this morning worshiping together. As we begin our service, I'll ask you to remain muted during our time. This ensures a clear audio recording on YouTube, and it also ensures our hymns do not sound cacophonous, as I imagine maybe some of you have found. As we settle into worship this morning, let us remember what a gift it is to be together. And I want to invite you all, if you feel so moved, to just offer a greeting in the chat so that we know that you are here. It could be anything like a hello, good morning, we're here. And you can find your chat either down here or up here with a little sort of audio box and the word chat underneath. So it's great to see you all here this morning. Let us remember what a gift it is to be together this morning. Now we will enter a space of worship. I will light our chalice this morning, a chalice hand carved by a member of the congregation where I grew up. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life that we share together. Our chalice is now lit. And our opening words this morning come from Reverend Teresa Inez Soto, and it's their piece, "You Are Not Wrong." I need you to know that there is nothing wrong with you. If you find the world congealed and unwieldy, you were never meant to serve money, to give loyalty to unprincipled power, to spend your joy frantically soothing yourself in order to tend wounds of being constantly dehumanized. I need you to know that your sense of injury and anger is not overdeveloped. You are meant for love and beauty. You belong where you are known and where your future is not just a resource, but a promise, which you begin to fulfill by being unmistakably, irrevocably yourself. So will you please join me in singing our opening hymn this morning, hymn number 1002, Comfort Me. Our story this morning is a children's book called Ish by Peter Reynolds. And before this time, I thought I may have access to that children's book, but in the last month, things changed. So you all will just have to make do with my dramatic presentation of the story. This book is about a young boy named Ramon. And Ramon loved to draw. Anytime, anything, anywhere. One day, Ramon was drawing a vase of flowers. His older brother, Leon, leaned over his shoulder, burst out laughing. "What is that?" he asked. Ramon could not even answer. He just crumpled up the drawing and threw it across the room. Leon's laughter haunted Ramon. He kept trying to make his drawings look right, but they never did. After many months and many crumpled sheets of paper, Ramon put his pencil down. "I am done," he said. Marisol, his sister, was watching him. "What do you want?" he snapped. "I was watching you draw," she said. Ramon sneered. "I'm not drawing. Go away." Marisol ran away, but not before picking up the crumpled piece of paper. "Hey, come back here with that," Ramon said. Ramon raced after Marisol up the hall and into her room. He was about to yell, but fell silent when he saw his sister's walls. They were filled with crumpled pictures he had drawn from the floor to the ceiling. He stared at the crumpled gallery. "This is one of my favorites," Marisol said, pointing. "That was supposed to be a vase of flowers," Ramon said, "but it doesn't look like one." "Well, it looks vase-ish," she exclaimed. "Vase-ish?" Ramon looked closer. Then he studied all the drawings on Marisol's wall and began to look at them in a whole new way. "They do look ish," he said. Ramon felt light and energized. Thinking ishly allowed his ideas to flow freely. He began to draw what he felt. Loose lines quickly spring out without worry. Ramon once again drew the world around him, making an ish drawing felt wonderful. He filled his journals. Tree-ish, house-ish, boat-ish, afternoon-ish, fish-ish, sun-ish. Ramon realized he could draw his feelings too. Peace-ish, silly-ish, excited-ish. His ish art inspired ish writing. He wasn't sure he was writing poems, but they were poem-ish. Ponder, 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 dream yonder, pond, yond, gleam wander, by Ramon. One spring morning, Ramon had a wonderful feeling. It was a feeling that even ish words and ish drawings could not capture. He decided in that moment not to capture it. Instead, he simply sat with it and savored it. And Ramon lived ishly ever after. The end. I'll invite you all now into this reverent time of sharing our joys and sorrows with one another. We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. I'll invite you now to please share your joys and sorrows in the chat box in Zoom or the comment section if you are with us today on YouTube. Know that whatever your heart is holding today, we are with you. We hold these, all the joys and the sorrows, and all the biggest feelings of our hearts together. We are with you this morning. Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. If you would like to give to this morning's offering, you can find a way to do so on the screen. And I'm actually going to share a way to do so right now. You can give online at canandaiguauu.org/connect or by physically mailing a check to the church. In either case, note that you'd like your gift, to go towards the Sunday offering, and we'll share a quarter of it with our monthly service partner, which this month is Unirondac. What an awesome place to be able to give to. And now I'd like to invite you into a time of centering and meditation with me. And so wherever you are right now, if you could just get comfortable in your chair, or if you're standing, just to feel the earth supporting you, to feel your chair supporting you, to lean back and just to take a deep breath and to trust in this solid ground that is holding each and every one of us. And so let us enter into a time of meditation with one another. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Brian Stevenson reminds us, each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. In those moments when we know we have harmed someone else, those times when we look back and clench, those moments of stepping on another's toes, the desire for things to be different than they really are. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. The mistakes, the moments of unintended words leaving our lips, having an impact we did not expect. Those times that we wish we could take it all back. The times when we acted outside of our values. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Let this be our mantra, not of cheap grace, nor forgiveness that comes easily so we don't have to deal with the tough stuff, but as a fact of our lives, a fact of everyone's life. Let us open our hearts to this fact that we may live better with one another and with ourselves. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. It's so good to be with you all this morning. Thank you again for inviting me to be here. Yesterday, I was chatting over Zoom, like I imagine many of us are right now, with my sister-in-law, who lives in Springfield, Missouri. One of the things that I am loving about this time is that in the midst of this crisis, I am seeing more of my family and hearing from my family more than I really ever have in my adult life. We were just checking in about how each of us is doing, and she was talking about schooling for her wonderful 8-year-old daughter, my niece. What she was sharing was that she was finding new ways to embrace flexibility, new ways to let go of the should of the schedule. It sounded like she was letting go of the expectations that everything would happen along a set timeline, that all assignments would be done perfectly and on time. My niece, as she was describing it, nodded in vigorous and appreciative agreement. There was a story there, but it didn't really seem like the right time to ask. So much has been extra stressful for the parents in our communities. I figured in that moment that I'd just listen and allow my sister-in-law to share what she felt comfortable with. Her comment about flexibility drew my attention to the fact that this time is really calling us to let go of perfectionism, a behavior that lives in high expectations, low appreciation, and also associating our worth with how many or how few mistakes we can make throughout our days. It feels like right now there are so many shoulds flying around. Here's the best way to parent your kids. The best way to weather this probable longer timeline of social distancing. The best practices for keeping this pandemic sustainable. And it just seems to me like so much of this feels like it feeds into perfectionism, into the idea that there is an ideal way to live through something we haven't ever experienced in our lives. Here's how many yoga classes you should be taking. Here's how many spiritual practices you should be engaging in. If you go to work, here's how you should do it. If you're able to work from home, here's how you should do it. And if you're able to stay home, here's what you should be doing with your time. And if you're working from home while parenting at the same time, here's the perfect strategy for managing kids, all the while remaining highly productive. I have to share with you that I too have fallen prey to this at times, attempting to keep regular office hours, attempting to keep up my spiritual practice to maintain the pace of life I was living before. It was a way to say, all of this is okay. I am okay. I can roll with the change. This isn't going to change my life. But it turns out that doing all of that was exhausting. Turns out that rapid paced change doesn't work this way. It turns out there is no roadmap towards the perfect way to weather this pandemic, whether you are working or not, whether you have a job that calls you to be away from home or you are practicing social distancing even within your own home. We have an inkling about what is healthy and about what we need to do to maintain physical and mental health, but these are just glimpses into what this time is calling us towards. There's no perfect way to live through something we've never experienced before. I love the way our story this morning calls us towards embracing living our life more ishly. And I really appreciated seeing your comments in the chat as well. Just as Ramon is learning to draw, hearing his sister's appreciation of his work gives him a whole new way to view what he is drawing and what he is writing, what he's creating. And that is exactly what I feel we are in need of right now. Appreciation for what we can do, rather than putting ourselves down for all that we are not getting to. If you were like me, this past month has really inhibited my ability to remember things, I can think 3 or 4 times a day about calling someone or sending a text message or getting to a task, but things are just fluttering out of my mind sometimes. What I am learning from our story this morning is to appreciate the times when I can remember to get something done, rather than beating myself up over all that has been forgotten, or even rather than beating myself up over the timeline to which I get to things. To embrace imperfection is to embrace an attitude of appreciation for what is. So much of what I'm hearing and reading right now is all about staying in the present moment, rather than looking to the past or wishing for a different future. Reverend Peter Friedrichs, a UU minister, shares a poem about this entitled Release, and here it is. I wish I were like the trees who let their leaves go gracefully without regret, or the tumbling stream that flushes silt to sea, exchanging murkiness for blessed clarity, or the dandelion who bows its head to the subtle breeze, unleashing its future without fear or loss. Instead, I drive white-knuckled, defensive as we were taught, tense and guarded for what may come my way. I keep a death grip on my life. If you asked me for my dying wish, it would not be for 10 more wishes. It would be to let go of wishing anymore. Wishing I'd made different choices and that I hadn't hurt you as I did. And to forego these old and dusty grudges that I keep like pictures in a shoebox beside my bed. I long to embrace my life with a lover's touch, or as you would an injured wren, precious, tender, true. Instead, regret and fear, twin anchors, hold me fast, close in against the shore. Cast off, I hear them call from the open exotic lands my heart yearns for. But the waters in between my here and theirs hold unknown hazards, unlike this dark, familiar port. This day, a prayer to ease my grip on what once was, or what is meant to be, that I may find myself content to drift and float upon life's boundless sea. It just seems like this timely metaphor for our lives in this moment. To let go of the tight grip on life and how things should be, and to embrace all that is unfolding before us. I can really relate to the expectations built up by wishing that I had not hurt others as I did, or holding on to resentments for much longer than seems necessary. I think so much of the expectations that perfectionism operates out of are ones we have experienced from others and internalized. And yet we also have a responsibility to see these moments of high expectations with low appreciation in our lives and to address them. Or perhaps they are born out of formative experiences when we learned that our mistakes meant that we personally were wrong. The hurt of that lie, the hurt of feeling criticized or even unloved because of mistakes we have made, forms this wall of expectations around us. And I don't want to use this poem as an example of what you should be doing in this moment, because we have enough of that right now. I have seen too many infographics this week about how we should all be caring for ourselves in certain ways and meeting this moment with limited news time, with space to feel our feelings, with surrender. It would be lovely to find ourselves content to drift and float along life's boundless sea, and sometimes it is appropriate to be fearful. Sometimes it is appropriate to be completely numb. Sometimes we are just doing the next right thing and the next right thing because life's boundless sea feels overwhelming, or the kids need to be fed, or we have to pay our rent, or we are just doing what we can to be helpful in the midst of the vast economic inequalities and injustices that surround us. I feel like that is the spirit of this poem and this antidote to perfectionism. To not expect anything in this moment other than what we are experiencing right now. To extend those experiences acceptance. To release a mode of comparing and despairing, and instead just allow what is to be what is. Unitarian Universalist theologian Dante Hilliard invites Unitarian Universalism into a theology of experimentation over perfectionism. He describes his seminary worshiping experience as a place to try things, to see what happens, and to explore. He believes that once we get into worship in our congregations, we attempt to perfect the experience. And something is lost when we get out of this theology of experimentation, this ability to try things on and see what happens, to allow spirit or human community to move as it will in the moment, to accept our ishness over attempting to draw the perfect flower in a vase. Hilliard shared this in a Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism panel entitled, "Whose Faith Is It Anyway?" And here we are, in the midst of one grand experiment, learning to do church online, learning how to be church when church has left the building. We are here alongside those we love in the midst of this beautiful experiment that is life. Learning how to be with one another when we cannot be beside one another. It is a wonder to me how fast we can adapt when we are in a mode of experimentation over perfectionism. It is amazing how we can allow the walls of our expectations that have been built up to come down in moments when we are getting to what matters most right now. Remaining connected, not isolating, getting the rest our bodies need, doing what we can to flatten the curve and keep our loved ones safe. Friends, today, my hope for you is to release the perfectionism that has kept you tethered to some kind of ideal way of being. May you find a way through loving acceptance of the present moment, through reflection and learning as a result of mistakes you make. In these times, let us be gentle with one another. And most of all, let us be gentle with ourselves. May we remember that each one of us is more than the worst thing we have ever done. Let us be reminded that there is no perfect way to live through something we have never experienced before. And may this heart space of acceptance come from each one of us and go out into the world, that others are encouraged to embrace imperfection. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.
We are living beneath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Love and spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone, I am searching, hungering for answers in my own heart. I am balanced on the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection will be my cry. In humility, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. together and be my guide. Love and lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share. Have been with us since life's beginnings, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance on the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Love and spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Love and spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Love and spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
Friends, as we go forward this morning, I'd like to invite you to just place a hand over your heart. And if you can, to look into the faces of those who are here gathered with us. We are swimming in this stream together, some in power and some in pain. May you go forward this week with appreciation for the present moment, with a heart open to learning from your mistakes, guided and held by a larger love that surrounds us all. And may we just rest in that love, trust in that love, and be gentle with ourselves in the days ahead. It is a gift to be together this morning. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. And my friends, please join us in singing our final hymn, hymn number 318, We Would Be One. Friends, as we extinguish our chalice this morning, I will read the words that are normally recited at the end of your service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.